Good evening. I would like to, return to order. We have been meeting in closed session since 6:30 this evening for four discussions. One, the approval of the 11:15-11 closed session minutes. Two, employment of employee. Three, closed session minutes, discussion and review. And four, collective negotiations. Can you please join me in stand in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Maria Hirsch, Board Vice President, filling in for Mrs. Deroni, Board President, who is out of town and unable to join us for this meeting. What we are holding here this evening before we begin our regular business meeting is a public meeting, a public hearing for the adoption of the 2011 Certificate of Levy. And so we call this public hearing to order. And Mrs. Walsh, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Ebner?
Yes.
Mrs. Deroni is absent. Mr. Collins?
I'm here.
Ms. Hirsch?
Here.
Ms. Stufen?
Here.
Mr. Bloom?
Here.
Mr. McDonough?
Here.
Thank you. There are 6 board members present, 1 absent. At this point in time, the board has been discussing the levy for a number of months now. We've seen financial projections, but at this point, it's time for us to actually conduct our hearing and then vote later on this evening to approve the levy. So, Mr. Welton, I believe that you're going to give us a quick overview of the levy as we expect to approve it later this evening.
Good evening. We have the 2011 tax levy tonight before the board for approval. And the levy was calculated to provide a tax extension that increases by CPI plus new growth. The Property Tax Extension Limitation Act is also known as the tax cap. The tax cap says that our 2011 tax extension will increase by the lesser of CPI or 5% plus new growth. The highest that CPI has been since the inception of the tax cap is 4.1%. It's averaged 2.4% over the last 17 years. In the last 3 years, CPI has been 0.1%, 2.7%, and 1.5%. So it's averaged 1.43% over the last 3 years. Our current budget for the 11-12 school year has 84% of our revenues coming from property taxes. Interest income has fallen off as a revenue stream. State funding has proven to be unreliable and likely to decrease in the future. And federal funding is flat. Generally, overall, our revenues are flat. And on the expenditure side of the equation, we are a service organization, very labor intensive. So most of our expenditures, 66% of our operating budget is for salaries, 13% for budget, 79% of our budget on the expenditure side is related to staffing. And our staffing is closely linked to our enrollment and our needs of our students. Healthcare has been trending at 8 to 12%. We've had increases in the need for technology in the classroom. Energy costs have trended more than CPI, and this all has resulted in a structural deficit for schools. Expenditures are outpacing revenues. When the tax cap was implemented, it was said that school districts would need an operating revenue about every 5 years. Our last operating referendum was 2006. The school district is attempting to stretch the amount of time in between referendums. How are we doing that? We have made significant budget cuts over the last 2 years. We've made significant staff reductions in the last 2 years. The 10-11 budget, the board, they went through a process where they asked for feedback and ideas for suggestions on budget cuts. They received about 600 suggestions that they went through and came up with $2.8 million in cuts for the 10-11 budget. Then last year we went through the EPIRD process in the school district for the entire year, and it was a long and painful journey, and it resulted in more cuts in larger class sizes and increases in fees to parents. So the levy is levying to provide for what is under the tax cap, CPI plus new growth. So the levy is more than we expect to receive in the tax extension. We expect to receive more, like 3.79. There are a few unknown variables at the time of the levy, which are new growth and EAV. So that is why we levy more than we expect to receive. It's because of those unknown variables. So our levy is 4.7% increase over the 2010 tax extension for our capped fund. And then our bond and interest fund is a 5%, and that's strictly related to the bond and interest payments on our debt, for an overall increase of 4.73%, a total levy of $95,815,543.62. That is all. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Welton. Do any board members have questions?
One thing to point out in here too, in that 95, is that what it's about 1.4 million of that's the hospital?
About 1.4 million of the of the extension is related to the new growth.
So if the hospital ends up being tax exempt, and that number goes down to 94.4 million, which is only a 3.2% growth. So
Right.
it's even less.
So it's about 1.5% related to the hospital.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. McDonough?
Regarding the hospital, if they're entitled to a refund, the district will have to pay interest on the 1.4 million. And that interest rate is statutory, and it does exceed the interest that we will earn having it parked in an interest-bearing account somewhere. So this whole hospital thing is going to cost us money in the long run.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Mr. Collins?
Just a point of clarification. If there were no new growth, because the consumer price index for the year 2010 was 1.5% year over year, we would be capped at levying an additional 1.5%.
That's right.
So anything we're levying over 1.5% is an attempt to capture new properties coming onto the tax rolls in our geographic school district.
That's correct.
And by far and away, the biggest one of them is the big question mark, which is the Elmhurst Hospital properties.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Welton. At this point in our hearing, it is an opportunity for the public to address the board and express their thoughts. Our board approach is that we ask you to come to the microphone. We have forms in the back of the room outside the table. There's a blue form if you would like to address the board verbally. If you would just like to leave comments for the board and your thoughts, we have these half-sheet yellow forms, and you're more than welcome to fill them out and return them to Malia Smith, who is sitting at the end of this table right here. At this time, we have one individual who has signed up to address the board as part of this hearing. It is Mr. William McDonald. So, Mr. McDonald, if you'll make your way to the microphone. Our procedure is that we ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes and to address the topic at hand, which is our tax levy this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is William McDonald, 264 West Madison, Elmhurst. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'd like to tell you a short tax history of my house. It is a 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom ranch in South Elmhurst. For the year 1998, I paid a total tax of $3,800, of which $2,600 was for the schools. In 2010, I paid a total of $7,600, of which $5,200 was for schools. That is a 100% tax increase in 12 years, or more than a 6% increase per year. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, the cost of goods inflation rate was 39% over the same time period. So why the dichotomy? Why does education go up 100% and CPI go up 39%? I know that there might be differences, but that's a huge difference. And I think it speaks to the fact that you haven't managed the board very well over the last 12 years. House values were rising during that time, and many homeowners felt that their wealth was rising through their homes. But as we saw in the last 3 years, their home values have collapsed. But the taxes that you levied have not. Now, in a deep recession, you want to raise taxes again. Seems like a cruel tax on the taxpayers. The county now tells me the value of my home is $401,000, down from $435,000 originally last year. They lowered that in this recent evaluation. But Zillow, the online real estate guide, estimates that it is a $325,000 house. Now that the school board wants to take back the slight decrease that the county appraisal gave me. Over the years, you have given huge salary and benefit increases to the teachers and administrators. And now that the housing bubble has burst, you are not willing to ask the teachers to make any sacrifices. Elmhurst, anecdotally, is becoming a town that new buyers are bypassing because of the high house taxes. It seems to me that you are great advocates for the teachers' union and administrators, but the taxpayers of Elmhurst have no advocate. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing as we have no other speakers to address us for public comment for this portion of the meeting, we will adjourn our public hearing and we will be returning to our regular meeting. At this point, we have a treat. We have a performance that we are all going to get to enjoy. York High School has a very strong performing arts program. Instrumental music as well as voice. I'm not a great person to describe these really well, but we have a great treat in that the York Madrigal Singers are going to be joining us. And I believe Diana Smith, our principal, is here at the high school to give us a quick introduction. I don't see her. I thought I saw her earlier. Okay. Okay, so we have a great performance coming in hopefully 30 seconds. And there's Malia. And board members, our madrigals are going to come sit in front. And we found that if you want to hear them better, if you want to get up and sit in the audience, it's a great performance. Diana, would you mind coming up and introducing our madrigals? Just giving a little. Oh, is Becky here? Okay.
Happy are the folk on earth and gone is sorrow, waiting fear. No
si in fretta, o vita del mio cor fa la 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 la. Lungi da te mia diva, come vuoi tu pioviva, fa la 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 la. O tu qui resta, lascia me venir, che senza te mi converrà a morir. Fa la 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 la, fa la 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 la. Te cangiano allegrezza, non manca pianto e vezza,
to maybe say what year you are at York, if you all go to York, right? Okay, and maybe what you do, like something else you do other than choir, or if you're going to college and you know where you're going already, maybe where you're going and what you're doing. It's just something interesting, or maybe college joke.
I'm Brianna Murray. I'm a junior at York, and I'm involved in cross-country, drama, and choir.
I'm Anna Marie Giordano. I'm a senior at York, and I'm involved in drama, speech team, and choir.
I'm Anne-Marie Pasternak. I'm a senior at York, and I'm also the captain of the Science Olympiad team and involved in drama and choir.
I'm Maddie Meyer. I'm a sophomore at York, and I'm in drama speech team, and I recently released a CD.
I'm Haley Halleck. I'm a senior at York, and hopefully I will be going to University of British Columbia.
I'm Rainey Dam. I'm a senior. I'm the president of York Drama, and I'm also on speech team.
I'm Helen Knudsen. I'm a junior at York, and I do speech team and York Drama.
I'm Julia Lindberg. I'm a senior at York, and I am on the Bass Fishing Club.
I'm Maggie Tatchett. I'm a senior, and I'm in drama, theater, and choir, and hopefully I'll be majoring in neuroscience and theater next year.
Good combo.
I'm Alex Owens. I'm a junior and also run cross-country track.
Hi, I'm Calvin McFarland, and I am the Vice President of Amnesty International.
Hi, my name is James Mueller, and I do band, choir, and orchestra at York.
I'm Jason Krzyzewski. I'm a senior, and I do lacrosse and choir. I'm Sean O'Keefe. I run cross-country and track at York, and I'm also in choir.
Hi, I'm Phil Corrado. I do choir at York, and I run track. And I'm junior.
And you're doing the winter musical. Don't forget about that. Everybody comes to see Phil in his big starring role. And so that is our magical group this year. So thank you very much for having us tonight.
Masters in this hall, hear ye all the news today that's brought from o'er the waters. Now rejoice, I pray. Shepherds in the hills sat among the silent sheep, and no man spoke more word than had they been asleep. Noel, 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 Noel. Happy are the folk on earth, and gone is sorrowing and fear. Noel, 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 Noel. For today the folk are raised it up and cast it down the proud. Noel, 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 Noel. To Bethlehem they all did go to see a wondrous babe lying in a manger low. This is Christ the Lord, so masters all I pray be glad. This time is come and all that should be sad. Noel, 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 Noel. Happy are the folk on earth and gone is sorrowing.
All those girls were in the spiritual choir, and they had their performance on Saturday and Sunday. So they're doing that while they're performing spiritual.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Marinetti. We have a wonderful, wonderful tradition at York High School with the Madrigal Singers, and it has been a tradition that the Madrigals come to celebrate their gifts with us at board meetings, and hopefully those of you that are watching at home, in addition to our audience here, can enjoy the sounds of the season. So that was a lovely tribute.
Let me just add, too, I had the privilege of last Friday being at York High School, and I got a private concert from the York Choir. I was not able to get to the actual Christmas musical because of previous engagements with the board. But I can tell you, it was just outstanding. Probably one of the best performances I've ever seen. So I want to thank Becky and all the students at York. We're really lucky to have
a really outstanding performance arts department, and that doesn't happen by accident, but by a lot of dedicated teachers working with kids individually, and they performed great, and they were a happy lot. And I still owe you donuts, so they're on their way, Becky, so because I took away their donut day.
I think the other just personal comment that I would like to make is that's one of the things that we value in Elmhurst is the comprehensive education, which includes not only preparing our students for their college readiness standards, we want them all to do well in their academics, but we also really value a broad exposure to the arts, whether it be through dance, through music, instrumental music. We have a lot of offerings at all levels of our organization, and it's something that we, I think, really celebrate in Elmhurst. So thank you again. Now on to some of the more mundane parts of our agenda. Nothing is going to beat the madrigals. At this point in our meeting, it is time for public comment. We offer an opportunity for the public to address the board at every open board meeting. I do not have any additional public comment forms. If anybody at the last minute would like to address the board, if you want to raise your hand now. Then we're going to go ahead and move on to the superintendent's communication portion of the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the school district library grant program for fiscal year 12. Mr. Pernod?
Yes, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Charles Johns, who will explain the grant program and the recommendation for this evening.
Good evening. This is a standard grant that we apply for every year. It's worth the equivalent of $5,700. We apply for it by the state, and it is allocated to the buildings on a per capita basis. The program ensures that we follow steps to ensure that we have great libraries, and we follow it vigorously. Additional materials regarding this program called Linking for Learning are held in the curriculum office for anyone who's interested to review them further. And as a condition of our application for this library grant, we need to have board approval.
This library grant information was brought forth at the Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting that we had recently. There weren't really any burning questions that came out of the committee. It was good information to have. Do any board members have any questions? Mrs. Stufen.
I have a comment more than a question, and I thought that what I learned through this grant process, I happened to be asked to be at the curriculum meeting because of overlap with the policy, and what I liked, what I heard from this is that it's not just individual libraries. What I learned is that all of the librarians that represent every one of our schools work together so that we can have a comprehensive library delivery to our students and our staff. And so I thought that was really important for, if no one knows that that's really important for you to know.
Just one question, Charles. Are you looking for a vote tonight from the Board of Education? Because I don't see it on the consent.
I'm sorry, I believe we do need a vote from the board.
Then if, at the board's pleasure, if we could have a motion and a second and then a vote on the grant, that would be great.
Mr. Collins?
I move to approve the fiscal year 2012 District Library Grant Program.
A second. Mrs. Ebner, thank you. This is accepting a grant, so I'm assuming that a voice vote is going to be an acceptable approval from the board. This is not spending money. So all those board members in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, 6 ayes, no nays. That improv motion carries.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, next on our agenda is the annual audit review. Mr. Pernod.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Welton, and this is our annual audit review from our outside auditors. This also was reviewed by the Finance Committee in pretty detail and is brought forward this evening in a summary form.
That is correct. We went through this. Scott Klein from Klein, Hall and Associates was at our Finance Committee meeting and went through the audit in great detail. Tonight we have just a short presentation. This first slide is the Association of School Business Officials International Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. This certificate is from last year's annual audit report, and it is a certificate. it says that our audit report is done with the highest standards of financial reporting. It's been reviewed by ASBO International and other auditing firms, and shows that our audit report, comprehensive annual financial report, is the highest level of financial reporting. And the current 2010-11 audit has also been submitted to ASBO International for the certificate. The audit report, it comes in December, which is almost 6 months after the fiscal year, where we reported about fiscal year 2011 in July on the cash basis. The audit report is done, I think the significance is that it's an independent CPA firm that comes in and tests and does lots of extensive work looking at invoices and verifying all the financial information that we provide. And this, you can't read it, but what it says is that it's an unqualified opinion, and the financial statements present fairly with no material misstatements. This slide is just a summary of the income statement, which shows that we had a positive financial year for the school district. It shows a net increase of $4,154,598 increase in fund balance as a result of our revenues and expenditures in fiscal year 2011. So it was a positive financial year for the school district. And as a result, the State Board of Ed has a financial profile that they do every year based on the annual financial report that we submit to the State Board of Ed. And so for the, we received the highest category, financial recognition, and this is the 5th year in a row that we've been in the highest category. The last few years it gets, as I spoke of the structural deficit earlier, you know, it can only be achieved through hard work and budgeting and prudent financial decision making. And the way to continue this financial recognition would be to continue to do balanced budgets in the future. So that's all I have on the audit report. If there's questions.
Are there any board questions? Or Mr. Collins, do you have any interest in giving a quick summary of the highlights of the committee's work in reviewing the audit?
Sure. Mr. Welton made it look so easy, not nearly as easy for him or our auditors during the Finance Committee meeting. But I guess a couple of things that I'll point out. First, that we have received financial recognition for the last 5 years. And a perfect score is 4.0. And Chris, could you just outline why we don't get a 4.0? It's number of days cash on hand.
Yes.
We run a leaner budget. Go ahead.
The criteria for days cash on hand, to get a perfect score in that category, you need 160 days of cash on hand at the end of the year, which would be so a half a year's worth of cash on hand at June 30th. I think that's a very tough standard to achieve, and I don't anticipate that we'll ever get that 4.0 in that category.
And so, I mean, that's what keeps us at a 3.8. And 3.8 is certainly in the right range of financial recognition, and that's where we intend to stay. And certainly over the last 2 years, Mr. Welton talked about hard work. And that hard work is defined last year of cutting a net $3 million out of our expenditures. And I won't say cutting it out of our expenditures, but a combination of cutting expenditures and raising fees on our parents and our students, and increasing class sizes, and unfortunately having to lay off some teachers in the process. And the year before, we cut a net $2 million out through a combination of increasing fees, increasing class sizes, and cutting other expenditures as well. We continue to comb through the budget. Mr. Welton has done a good job in his 4 months here so far of looking to see what he can put out to bid, what costs he can lower, and we continue that effort. So with that said, that's, I think, probably a summary of what we went through in the Finance Committee is figuring out how we got there and how we're going to stay there.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from any board members on the audit? Okay, thank you very much. Next on our agenda is the approval of board meeting minutes. We have in front of us the approval or the November 15th, 2011 minutes. Are there any questions, corrections, or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, we'll accept those minutes as presented. Next on our agenda is the superintendent's consent agenda. This is a large consent agenda consisting of our personnel report, our financial reports, a Freedom of Information Act request, approval of York High School School Improvement Plan, approval of an amendment to the nursing services contract, approval to open designated closed session meeting minutes and keep all other closed session minutes closed, approval to authorize destruction of verbatim recordings of closed session minutes, approval of donations to Field Elementary School, approval to renew online student registration services, approval to renew email archive appliance maintenance agreements, approval of voice communication system maintenance, upgrade, and safety enhancements, approval of Mediascape AV integration at York High School and at Churchville Middle School, approval of bid 12-02, supply and install steel case Mediascape desk system, and then a series of policy updates, approval of policy, press policies in section 2. These are first policies brought forth for first reading in sections 2, 3, 5, and 6. Along consent agenda, are there any items that board members would like to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? Mr. McDonough.
I'd ask to remove items D and F.
Any other items? Seeing none, I would accept a motion. Mr. Collins.
I move to approve the consent agenda minus items D and F as submitted.
Thank you. A second? Mrs. Ebner? Thank you. Mrs. Walsh, this involves spending. Could you please call the roll for us?
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mrs. Ebner?
Yes.
Ms. Hirsch?
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
Mr. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Mrs. Duroni is absent.
Thank you. 6 ayes, no nays. That motion carries. I will accept any motions on the floor. Mr. McDonough?
I make a motion that I'm sorry. Let me get the other motion first. I'm going to do F first. Okay. I make a motion that the Board of Education release the minutes, release the February 26, 1996, August 12, 1996, December 8th, 1997, October 13th, 1998, March 11th, 2002, January 13th, 2003, January 10th, 2005, February 7th, 2006, August 13th, 2007, February 9th, 2009, March 23, 2009, February 9th, 2010, May 10th, 2011, and June 27, 2011 closed session minutes, and keep all other closed session minutes from February 1996 through December 2011 closed.
It was a mouthful. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Collins? Thank you. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried.
I'd like to also make a motion, that the Board of Education approve the school improvement plan for York High School.
Is there a second? Mr. Collins, thank you. Any comments? Mr. McDonough?
This is one that I think a lot of the media attention is focused on. The school improvement plan is the result of not making AYP, and I guess for two reasons I'd like to talk about. First, if we could clarify that there is a certain irrationality in AYP, and I'm hoping that Congress can get its act together and to rationalize a process. And this could give us one more chance to explain to the public and the press that only how many schools made AYP in Illinois? 8 high schools in the entire state of Illinois. That being said, there are also some things in there that we can pay attention to, and I understand that the Curriculum and Instruction Committee had some discussion about this, and I was just wondering if someone might summarize that.
Mrs. Ebner, do you want to summarize what exactly?
Maybe we could hear something about the presentation of the SIP that happened in the Curriculum Instruction Committee.
Okay.
The staff, the faculty and staff at York High School put together a very comprehensive SIP plan where they analyzed many sources of data and factored in things that are strengths and weaknesses of the school. Put together a plan that I think is very comprehensive, focuses primarily on reading and math. What I like about the reading plan is that it really targets all students. So it targets students who are having a really hard time at school, but at the same time focuses on expanding our AP enrollment. So across the board, trying to get improved reading at the high school. And they did a similar plan with math, trying to help kids who are really struggling with the lower level algebra class and looking at different ways of approaching algebra for those students, but at the same time also looking to expand our AP program in math as well. Both are very comprehensive plans with multiple strategies. I believe they're very sound plans.
I just wanted to say we heard some of the things described when you were here presenting the achievement report in August. I'm very impressed with some of the responses and strategies that are in this improvement plan.
Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Stufen?
I know that recently there's been more publication about the impact of preparing kids in middle school to be successful in high school. And it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, is that in this AYP, in this whole improvement plan within not only the high school, but within our district, what you are fostering is that we work as a school system, and therefore it's not just the high school, but it's the high school collaborating with middle school as well, and actually throughout the whole district to ensure that our students are moving through and performing as we would like. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, Mrs. Stuven, that is correct. I think that as a whole, the administration and the staff are working together in concert to make sure our students are very successful when they leave our high school and are well prepared. And we're taking a district-wide perspective that the achievement levels of a child as they graduate from the high school are heavily impacted by their early grade school experience, and we are all part of developing our students.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. We go ahead and give a voice vote. We are voting to approve the York High School School Improvement Plan. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Next on our agenda is the superintendent's agenda action items. And the first action on this, Mr. Pernot, I assume it's the adoption of the 2011 Certificate of Levy. Is there any further information that you'd like to present?
No, unless there's further questions from the Board of Education, my recommendation would be for the board to adopt this certification of levy this evening.
Is there any questions, discussion? Can I have a motion? Mr. Collins?
I move to adopt the 2011 Certificate of Levy.
Any seconds? Mrs. Ebner? Thank you. This requires a roll call vote. Mrs. Walsh, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mrs. Ebner?
Yes.
Ms. Hirsch?
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
Mr. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Mrs. Droney is absent.
Thank you, Mrs. Walsh. 6 ayes, no nays. That motion carries. Next on our agenda is the approval of superintendent goals, objectives, and the evaluation instrument. This one I'm going to present. As chair of the Performance Management Committee, the responsibilities of the Performance Management Committee were to work as a team with the superintendent to come up with objectives and goals, as well as define the evaluation process for the superintendent. So I'm going to just go over our rationale real quickly. The Board of Education is responsible for holding the superintendent and district as a whole accountable for providing appropriate educational services to all our students. A high-quality superintendent evaluation process helps develop good board-superintendent relationships, provides clarity of roles, creates a common understanding of the leadership being provided, and provides a mechanism for public accountability. The Performance Management Committee of the Board of Education has been engaged in the development of the superintendent's evaluation documents and evaluation process. In addition, they have worked on establishing goals for the superintendent. The consensus of the Performance Management Committee is that the superintendent, as the CEO, will be accountable for the district achieving all of its specific goals, and that the district and superintendent goals should be one and the same. It is the desire of the Performance Management Committee to bring the results of our work to the full Board of Education for your approval. And so you will see that has been presented 3 documents. One is the superintendent goal setting for this fiscal year. Second is an evaluation tool. And third is a timeline for the superintendent's evaluation process. So as chair of the committee, we had lengthy discussions. We worked with Mr. Pernot, and we are have this work to present to the board. So we can entertain, the Performance Management Committee is made up of Mr. Bloom, Mrs. Stufen, and myself. So if you have any questions or concerns or comments, we welcome them at this time. Mrs. Ebner.
I just have one question about the superintendent's goals. The one paragraph, by June 1st, we will have district performance indicators. And I was wondering if at some points before June 1st, if we'll be seeing some of these performance indicators, or June 1st is the first time we'll be presented with the full list.
I think I'll let Mr. Pernot address this as well, but I think our thinking was that this is a large goal. We are looking to identify performance indicators in all areas of our business, whether it is academic achievement, whether it is operations, food service, transportation, buildings and grounds, all of the areas of the business. And so we're basically asking for ways to measure all of the services that we deliver. This is, I think, our thinking was this was going to be an iterative approach. So it's not like, on June 1st we're going to get these. I think this is going to be the Curriculum and Instruction Committee is going to be looking at and identifying performance indicators that cover that area. Each of the committees will be in discussion with the appropriate administrators and obviously Mr. Pernot on identifying what the performance indicators are. and then Mr. Pernod and his team will come up with the baseline data. So I think this is an iterative process. Mr. Pernod, do you think that's a fair?
Yeah, and actually, I'm working on a timeline that I will be sharing with my cabinet and then sending it to the Board of Education. It's a process timeline for the development of the district performance indicators. I think you can expect that by March, at the latest, you will receive in each subcommittee, each board committee, a list of the district performance indicators that we would be recommending. That will give the committee time to look at those, each committee in their area, have a discussion about whether those district performance indicators are appropriate, what the data will be that will be linked to those as we collect the data and have that discussion. Simultaneously in March, we will be releasing some of those to the public and to staff so that they have comments on those performance indicators with the intention that by May, all of those as total will be tentatively approved by the committees, or at least recommended. Then they will all go to the performance management team, because I think there's going to be one committee that will need the oversight of all those district performance indicators, and then eventually to the board in June for adoption of all the district performance indicators by the end of June at the latest. So that's kind of the tentative timeline. I will send that process in detail. There's a process timeline that I'm working on, and I'll send that to you within the next 2 weeks so you have a better understanding of kind of the timeline I'm thinking about to adopt these performance indicators.
I think the other thing that's important to note is that it's not just the board identifying and setting targets, and it's not just you setting targets. We're working with the entire administrative team to communicate what it is that we're trying to accomplish by identifying the performance indicators. And the real rub is that we're looking to not only identify how we're going to measure how we do, but we are also looking by June 1 to have baseline data so that we have these performance indicators and we have our starting point. And from there, we will set goals moving forward. If, for instance, it is third grade reading proficiency, if we determine that our current baseline data is that 80% of our students are reading at grade level, I'm using this as an example, then we would set a goal, maybe a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal. So for each of these areas of the business and for each of the initiatives that we have, we're going to identify by the end of this school year the performance indicators, the baseline data, and then we're going to be defining very detailed specific goals for our superintendent and our entire team, and expect them to meet those goals, or provide rationale as to why we couldn't meet those goals. But I think it really is a paradigm shift in how we measure the performance of the district and the superintendent as well. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Can we have a motion to accept the superintendent goals, objectives, and evaluation instrument? Mrs. Ebner, is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, 6 ayes, no nays, that motion carries. Next on our agenda is the adoption of a new policy in Section 7, policy number 305, student athlete concussions and head injuries, for a first reading. Mrs. Stufen, as chair of the Policy and Board Improvement Committee, would you like to present this?
Yes, actually it's a new legislation that all school boards must adopt a policy regarding student athlete concussions and head injuries, and they have to be in compliance with protocols, policies, and bylaws of the Illinois High School Association. In addition, the new legislation also requires school districts to provide coaches and student athletes and their parents and guardians with educational materials from the IHSA regarding the nature and the risk of the concussions and head injuries, including the risks inherent in continuing to play after a concussion or head injury. So this is something to protect our students, and it's good legislation, and therefore we have to adopt this policy.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? I will accept a motion. Anybody?
I motion that the Board of Education approve the first reading of the new policy 7305, student athlete concussions and head injuries as our first reading.
A second? Mr. Collins, thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda is a long list of upcoming meetings, even though we are heading into the holiday season. Thursday, December 15th, the Finance and Operations Committee of the Board is going to be meeting at 7 p.m. Wednesday, December 21st, the Board Improvement and Policy Committee meeting will be held at 7 p.m. Wednesday, January 4th of 2012, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee will be meeting at 7 p.m. And our regularly scheduled board meetings, Tuesday, January 10th is our workshop meeting, and Tuesday, January 24th is our Board of Education business meeting. Both of those meetings begin at 7:30 here in this room. Next on our agenda is board communications. We have 4 committee meetings that we can report on, and then we'll entertain any other board communications. So we'll start at the top. The Board Improvement Policy Committee, Mrs. Stupen.
Yes, actually I have several items. One is that all of the Board of Education committees, their agendas and associated meeting minutes are now on our District 205 website under the Board of Education committees. So this allows a lot more easier access for us and anyone else to go through and see all of our committees, see all the board members that are part of the committees, but then look at when we're meeting, what our agendas are, and associated meeting minutes so you can keep up with things. And thank you, Kathy Schrader and David Smith and everyone that was involved in making that a lot easier for everyone to be transparent and keep up to date. Secondly, the community forum feedback has been received. Thank you very much, PTA Council, for hosting that. We got very good feedback. Dave and the cabinet and the staff are working on the issues and feedback that we received, and putting together an FAQ that will be posted on the District 205 website. Just a reminder to all the Board of Education members that the feedback was posted under our committee meeting dated November 30th. Just in case you didn't see that, you can see the raw data. In October of 2010, Malia issued a survey that was sent out both within the district and outside of the district to see if we were utilizing the most effective sources for communication to our stakeholders. And that provided very good information, but it was a baseline. So just FYI, Malia will be sending out another follow-up survey. It is at no cost, so that she can continue to track, are we hitting more people and are we effective in our communication? Next update. District 205 continues to ask for feedback on our draft vision and mission statements from all of our stakeholders. So I know that there's a lot of different ways that we're doing that, from Dave to Malia posting the vision and mission and asking for any feedback. I know that we've received some, but if anyone is interested, please email superintendent@elmhurst205.org. We continue to want your feedback. Lastly, the committee continues to work on various existing and new policies, our board improvement and community relations ideas. So please continue to review both of our agendas before our meetings, as well as our meeting minutes afterwards, to stay as abreast of the details as you would like.
Thank you. Ms. Zebner, Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
We had our meeting last week, December 7th, and a few of the highlights are the Board of Education's governance priorities. We worked this summer, the Board of Education, we did 3 meetings to determine our governance priorities for the district. And we took time last week at the curriculum meeting to determine if the work of the curriculum group led by Charles Johns is in sync with our governance priorities. And we determined that, yes, the work that you're doing, Charles, with your group, is in sync with our governance priorities we developed in the summer. So we are aligned with the curriculum staff. Okay. The next thing we talked about was meeting with the curriculum coordinators. It's important to the board to get to know the new curriculum coordinators and the staff and understand what their priorities are. So each of our curriculum committee meetings, we're going to be having a curriculum coordinator address the committee and talk about their priorities. So this month we had Connie Chester at the meeting. Is she still here? I saw her. Okay. And she introduced herself and provided highlights of her current priorities. So we're going to continue doing that each meeting and get to know the be familiar with the roles of the administrators. We also talked about a communication piece from District U46 in Elgin. We learned about this at our recent IASB conference. And as we talk about our benchmarks for our district, what will go along with that after we establish our benchmarks is a communication campaign to the community, parents, teachers, everybody. So that's going to be ongoing work, and we'll talk more about that after our benchmarks are established in June. Let's see if there's anything else here. There's one last thing. The policy committee will need to review and bring recommendations forth to the full board on policy 6300, graduation requirements. So I just want to give you a heads up. There's a few things we need to look at under graduation requirements. So next policy meeting, which will be December 21st, if we could have that on the agenda, that would be great. And that's it.
Thank you. Finance and Operations, Mr. Collins.
The Finance and Operations Committee meeting on November 22nd, we addressed several topics. First, we had a request from a corporation looking to relocate to Oak Brook in a section of Oak Brook that overlaps District 205, asking for a tax abatement for the building that they are planning on building. They are also looking at another location outside the state of Illinois to move their corporate headquarters to. We had our legal counsel attend the meeting and advise us as to the situation with this particular proposal. What our legal counsel pointed out to us that DuPage County has never had a tax abatement from a school district since the inception of the tax cap. We reviewed the request, and the committee determined that we could really see no advantages for the students or the other taxpayers in District 205 by accepting this request. And also we were cognizant of the fact that were we to accept this request, that we would be setting a precedent for DuPage County, which we chose not to do. So our conclusion was that we did not find the proposal attractive. The second thing we addressed was the intervening in the property tax appeals board. When a property taxpayer appeals their property taxes, the taxing districts, all the taxing districts, have 60 days from the date of filing to intervene. We discussed at what level of request for assessment reduction that it becomes concerning to us that we should spend the time and the effort to intervene. We determined that assessment change level was about $300,000. So someone who's asking for their assessment of their of their property to be decreased by $300,000 or more, of which one instance was brought to us. We concluded that we will ask for some information from that property owner. And in this particular case, we did ask to intervene just to see what evidence they present. Once that is submitted to us, we'll decide if we want to proceed further. But this is something that we've had the right to do, but the district has never done in the past. We just think it's prudent at the $300,000 or above level to ask for evidence and to get more information from someone who is appealing their property assessment. The next thing we discussed was, do you want to add?
That was only related to commercial or industrial properties, not residential on those.
Right, and that's a good point. You know, most residences, because the assessment is 1/3 of fair market value, there aren't a whole lot of residences around that would try to appeal for a reduction of $300,000 or more. So yes, we're talking about multi-million-dollar commercial properties only where we would even think of intervening. The next thing we discussed was a lunch debit card program. Our current procedure that we implemented this year is that we've imposed a $3 convenience fee on any credit card transaction that comes through the district through our RevTrack program that we use. A proposal was made to us by a firm called NutriKids that would be able to replenish our students' lunch cards at a fee, and if the parent chose to use a credit card, they could reduce that fee to $1.75. In return for that $1.75 fee, they would allow the parent to have access to a 30-day history of what items their child is buying in the lunch line. We thought that this was a win-win for parents. It was a reduction in fee. They could take a look at the nutritional value of what their kids are buying in the lunch line, and we chose to move ahead with it. In fact, you'll already find it on our website. We moved ahead immediately. The next related topic is we want to review the credit card transaction fee, that $3 fee that we're charging everyone. In our February meeting, when we review all the district fees, we're going to take a look at that credit card fee and see if we can make any changes to it. We also took, the next item we took a look at was the self-insurance reserves. We have aggregated maybe more money in our insurance reserve fund than we need to handle a catastrophic claim. However, the Finance Committee looked at the trend of insurance claims, the trend of the cost of health care in this country, and determined that it would be good for our employees and a benefit to our employees to retain the reserves that we currently have and not deplete them, to use as a buffer for the increasing health insurance costs that this district, along with everyone else in the country, is faced with. We are also in an ongoing process of coming up with standards and a way to monitor the continuous financial health of the district, rather than a once-a-year audit snapshot or a once-a-year budget proposal. We're trying to keep tabs on it on a monthly basis through the committee. And we suggested we change some language. In the one rule of thumb that we use is what the fund balances are on July 1st of each year. So the school district takes in revenue basically on 2 days of the year from property taxes, June 1st and September 1st. So the traditional rule of thumb has been a 25 to 30% balance on July 1st. We'll make sure that on May 30th, which is the lowest cash balance generally of the year, that you still have a positive balance. So our current policy is 25%. The rule of thumb that we're going to use is a balance of 25 to 30%. Once once the balance in the funds is above 30%, we're going to talk about our spending policies and how we can change that. And then, of course, anything below 25% would be a very serious red flag for us. And we would take a closer look at what our spending will be for that fiscal year. And then also, the cash low point, which again is generally May 30th or 31st of the year, we currently have in our tool to say a 3% balance is acceptable, and we decided that a range would be better and change that to 3 to 5% of our total budget for the year. Because truly managing to within 3% of your $100+ million budget is quite the task. So the buffer of 3 to 5% we felt was more realistic. And then we also took a look at the new reports, these new monthly reports that are submitted to the Finance Committee, discussed them. They are certainly not a replacement for the current board reports, but we're hoping that they will enhance what the board is receiving. And like I said earlier, we can keep a closer tab on the district's revenues and expenses on a monthly basis. And then one other quick thing what we discussed, and the final thing, on December 12th, which was yesterday, the annual Joint Review Board met. The city and all the taxing districts that are involved in the 3 TIFs that are in the city of Elmhurst met to review those TIFs. And then on December 15th, which is Thursday evening, the Finance Committee has asked the city of Elmhurst to come in to review the 2004 intergovernmental agreement with the extension of TIF 1 that a previous board had entered into with the city of Elmhurst, and we'll be discussing that topic on Thursday. That's all I have.
Mr. McDonough.
Could I just get a clarification on F, where these are recommended changes to board policy? Should we implement that through an actual policy change with readings and the whole thing going through policy committee? I mean, these are common sense things. This is in the nature of a recommendation to the entire board. Is that the appropriate procedure for these?
Let me check. I will check and see if it's actually in board policy, if there's specifics in board policy. If there are, then yes, it would be appropriate to do that. Is it in there?
Because I think that's where
okay.
we're talking about changing the numbers.
Then we'll refer that to the policy committee to look at and bring changes forward.
All right.
There's been some discussion amongst board members about having recommendations coming out of committee, either recommendation to the policy committee. In other words, we've identified something in curriculum and instruction that needs to be looked at again, or coming out of finance that needs to be looked again, or specifically recommendations such as the superintendent's goals and objectives, everything that comes back from the committee to the full board. And so I think a number of us have been talking about firming up that process and making it a little clearer. Mm-hmm. Our intention is that we are not making decisions at the committee level. The intention is that we are making recommendations to the full board to take action, that the committees are really for discussion and understanding and asking questions and hopefully improving the recommendations that do come back to the full board. So does that help?
To the extent there's policy change that there's a specific thing that has to happen and needs a board resolution. To the extent there's we don't think it looks very good, such as the tax abatement issue. As a matter of procedure, what should we be doing? Just reporting out? And I guess if it's a nothing, it's taking no action.
We never received a formal request from the hub group for the tax abatement. They just requested that somebody discuss it at the district level. We did that. I communicated to them the result, but said you are certainly welcome to put in a formal proposal to the Board of Education to consider a tax abatement. Yeah. I have not heard anything since.
Well, I just didn't want to raise the specific. I wanted to use that as an example. But when a committee comes up and there seems to be a consensus in the committee to do something or not to do something, I mean, I guess if we're changing the policy manual, there's a specific need, but do any of these others need action? I mean, what is our standard for taking action on these recommendations? For instance, the Property Tax Board, Appeals Board guideline.
Right. That's a procedural issue within the administration. I think there's many administrations that never would have even brought that to a board committee. So I commend this administration for involving the Board of Education and our committee structure in decisions like that. And then, really, since it's a procedural thing, it's up to the administration. They simply came to our committee to say, if you were in our shoes, what would you do?
But we did change the policy originally to authorize them, subject to the approval of the superintendent, so this was just the superintendent bringing their input.
Looking for some guidelines.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Collins. The last committee is the Performance Management Committee, which I chair. At our last meeting, we finalized the superintendent's goals and evaluation process, which we took action on this evening. And really the other main component of the Performance Management Committee is to talk about those metrics, to come up with the performance indicators. One of the areas that we have some concerns that have been expressed by the administration, education right now is in a state of change. I think change is the word for education for the next 5 years. State law, the SB 7, PARA, there are a number of changes that are coming down in terms of teacher evaluations, building principal evaluations, how we're categorizing our employees. There is a great amount of work that is required in order for us to meet all of the changes that are coming down. Some of them are coming down sooner rather than later, but Mr. Hillman gave us I think 7-8 page document which outlined all of the projects that are going on within the Human Resources Department, which are things that we need to have in place and systems we need to have in place in order to effectively adopt these changes and integrate them into our system. So we were made aware of some of the concerns. We're concerned about staffing in the HR group, honestly, and being able to accomplish all of these goals. And so in the January meeting, Mr. Hillman's going to be bringing back to the committee specific recommendations on things that we are going to need assistance with. So it was really kind of raising the awareness level of some of the changes and some of the implications of these changes. As well, one of the areas that we expect to create performance indicators is kind of a customer satisfaction kind of an approach, and Mr. Pernot has started looking at some survey tools. A survey tool that Mr. Pernot has experience with in a prior district is the Harris polling survey process. It actually is a survey given to all students, 4th grade through 12th, parents and staff, and it assesses the satisfaction level of the district in a number of areas, and it's something that we would consider using as the benchmark for assessing our customer satisfaction, if you will. The interesting thing about this particular instrument is that it also compares our district to a national standard. They they review a number of school districts, and so we will have something that we can compare ourselves to on a national basis. That's being investigated. We'll look at other instruments as well, but that's some work starting in terms of assessing our customer satisfaction. We had a discussion about the initiative in the district to create a data warehouse. It's something that we've been talking about for a number of years. All 7 board members and a number of our administrators actually attended the school board conference and the administrator conference in November, and several of us learned there is a state effort to be compliant with many of the changes that are coming down in education to create a longitudinal data system where we would look at our performance over time, our students' performance over time, and be able to compare ourselves to other districts, similar districts. Now, the timing of the state's initiative, we are uncertain of, but given some of the things that are going on right now, the recommendation from the administration was that we wait and evaluate what we expect to see from the state before we commit a large amount of money to buying a data warehouse and bringing it in-house. I'm not sure if Mr. Johns gave that adequate description, but it was really kind of put the brakes on the data warehouse, and let's see what other things are going to be coming forward in terms of both requirements as well as what the state is going to be doing. Okay. And then finally, we had the discussion about the performance standards and the indicators and a framework to put all these together. And we talked about our time frame, having these performance indicators at the committee level no later than March, and divvying them up to all the various committees so that we all have work to do in defining what these performance indicators are and how we're going to measure them. And that's it. Are there any questions or? Okay. Are there any other board communications? Mrs. Stufen.
Yes, I just wanted to update the board and the cabinet. I did attend the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation discussion. It was presentation and panel discussion. December 6th, we were all invited, and I took Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation up on that opportunity. It was really an overview of resource allocation issues and talking about the interaction between policies, budgeting options, and reforms. So they talked about today's excellent teachers and restructuring resources for high-performing schools. So what I just recently received the presentations and some additional sources, so I'm going to give you a heads up that I'm going to be emailing it to all of you so that you can look at it at your leisure. It's very insightful, thought-provoking, future-looking education principles. Okay.
Thank you. Is there any other board communication? If none, I'm trying to meet Mrs. Deroney's mark of 9 p.m., so I will accept a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you. Good night.